Hey everybody, real quick before I get started, I want to tell you guys about something new that I'm trying out. I started a new Discord server. It's called One Mic. There is a link to the Discord in the episode description, and there will continue to be a link in the episode description for all subsequent videos. The reason I want to do this is because I wanted to give us all a space to collectively talk about all of the shows that I'm covering so we don't have to talk across each other in the comments or maybe miss some comments or miss some replies. I think it's a good place for us fans who are fans of the shows that I cover, fans of this channel, whatever that may be, for us all to get together and just kind of like talk about the show. So what I did was I created the server and then I created channels within it for each show that I'm covering at that time. Right now it's set up to cover the, I think, 4 or so shows that I'm covering right now, and then I've added channels for shows that I'm going to be covering in the month of December that I know for sure. And then as I'm covering shows will cycle in and out. So like once I'm done covering a show, a channel will be deleted, and then once I start covering a show, a new channel will be added. So check out that Discord. I look forward to talking to you guys, and now let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1 of the Disney Plus / Star Wars series Andor. The reason I'm kind of coming with this late is because if you're a longtime fan of this channel, you know I'm not really popping right now. I don't have a ton of subscribers. I don't get a ton of views. And it's really hard to take the time that's necessary to review a Star Wars product, Marvel, just those things that like pretty much everybody has content out there on. And it's like, okay, am I gonna spend 2 to 3 hours on a video for it to get 100 plays? I'm not gonna do that anymore. I can't. I have too much stuff going on as far as like just content I want to get out here for you guys. I can't piss away all that time for only 100 views. So coming into Andor, I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. I don't know if it's gonna be any good or not, but I'll check it out. I'm not gonna cover it because if I can't get views on The Mandalorian, why the fuck would I get views on Andor, right? And so that's why I didn't cover it. But, you know, I started watching it, and I'm telling you, each week I got more and more into this show. And after it wrapped up last Wednesday, you know, I kind of mulled over whether or not I wanted to get on here and talk about it. And as I was trying to place it, because spoiler alert, this shit ends up this is going to be in my top 10 for the best of 2022. When I'm trying to place it in my list, I'm thinking like, it's really tough for me to place something on this list that I have not discussed at all on the channel, especially when it just ended. If it was something that ended in February or something like that, I'm not gonna go back and be like, hey, we talk about this thing from February. But it's like, it just ended on Wednesday. I'm in a good place to do it since I just ended coverage on Yellowstone and Tulsa King. So I'm like, let me get on here and talk about Andor for a little bit because, man, I'm telling you guys, I fucking love this show. Like, one of my most anticipated watches throughout the course of the week and throughout the course of its 12-episode run. And I was gonna talk about this at the end. I'm gonna talk about it right now very briefly. Having something like this where you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I want to place this among all of the other things that I've really, really liked this year? And if you're a longtime fan of this channel, you know what shows I'm talking about. How do I place Andor? How do you, when things are this good, if you have 5 shows that you'd give all of them like a 9.5 out of 10, how do you decide which one is ranked number 1 and which one is ranked number 5? And the way I'm doing that is I'm settling it by thinking about how much I anticipated the next episode of that show, if it was a week to week, or even if it wasn't, like how excited was I to hit play on the next one. And Andor, over the course of its 12-episode run, which the first week was 3 episodes, so it's not 12 weeks, probably 10 weeks, but over the course of its run, each week I'm more and more looking forward to it. Like, it kind of started off with like a thing where it airs on Wednesday, and I'm like, I'll fit it in as part of my Friday ritual where I go out my garage and I get fucked up and watch all the shows that I don't really cover on this channel. And it evolved into a thing where it's like I had to restrain myself from watching it like Wednesday during the day, and just to kind of like maintain that the ambiance that I liked to watch the show in. And the fact that I even had an ambiance, it was like, let me sit in a bathtub and light some candles and watch Andor. Like, it's not that crazy, but I had like a routine, and I'm like, this is my Andor experience, and I didn't want to fuck that up by watching the show at 12 o'clock noon when I can't have that experience, and I can't have that experience at 11 p.m. But that's how much I love this show that I was thinking about shit like that. So I want to get started by talking about real quickly about the showrunner and the cast. The show is written by Tony Gilroy, who also Tony Gilroy is very well respected in the industry. He's done a lot of great work, as Phil Hartman would say on The Simpsons. You may remember him from other such films as, now he wrote Michael Clayton. He wrote Rogue One. I believe he wrote The Devil's Advocate, the Al Pacino movie from the late 90s. All of the Bourne movies. And yeah, I need to go revisit Rogue One because I'm like, there's no fucking way Rogue One is this good, but it actually might be. And I just wasn't ready for that style of Star Wars at that time. I feel like if I watch it again, I'm gonna hate myself for how I felt about it initially versus how I'm probably gonna feel about it now. But Andor stars, again, returning from Rogue One, Diego Luna as Cassian Andor. He's one of the only returning characters. Genevieve O'Reilly returns as Mon Mothma, and that's pretty much it so far. Oh, well, in a guest starring role, we again see Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera. We also have Stellan Skarsgård, who's great in everything, as Luthen Rael. Denise Gough, I don't know how you pronounce it. It's spelled like cough, but with a G, so it might be Goff, as Deidre Miro, and Kyle Solar as Cyril Karn. I'm not going to run through any more. Oh, well, I have Fiona Shaw as Marva as well, Marva Andor. So, talking about the show itself, what makes this show so great? And to me, this is the central thing. There's a whole lot of shit that makes this show great, but the main thing is the attention given to world building. Like when you think of Star Wars, you think of scale, you think of spectacle, the entire galaxy, lightsabers, TIE fighters, Wookiees, Jedi, Darth Vader, all of these things that are just huge in scale and spectacle. And this show says, what about the little people? I don't like the term little people, but like, what about the regular people, like the regular Joes who live in this world that is run by this empire? What's it like for these people? What's it like for, say, like, the farmer who lives on a planet that also just so happens to have an empire base on it? Like when you're a regular fucking guy, when you're not Luke fucking Skywalker and you're Joe Blow who works at at the Walmart on Coruscant, what is your life like? And how does that experience create people who start the rebellion that we come to see in the films? And the Star Wars saga has always been about like authoritarianism. And we see that with this show, but just on a more granular scale. With these people who live these normal lives that aren't Jedis or they're not trained to be Jedis. And we get to see how these people are treated and how they end up motivated to rebel and just what that looks like. As a regular Joe, again, Mr. who works at Walmart on Coruscant, and when you're not somebody who can lift a ship out of swamp water with their mind. So, like I said, the show goes on to build this world on a much smaller scale. So some examples, some of the cool things that I think this show did, you have planets with unique cultures. Like there's the main planet featured on the show. I'm saying for some reason. The main planet featured on the show is called Ferrix. I believe it's called Ferrix. I'm not 100% sure. But it has a guy who like sits atop this watchtower and bangs on this anvil as opposed to like having a regular clock tower like everyone else would have. And for some reason, the guy doesn't get a lot to do. We probably see him a handful of times throughout the season. But he was one of my favorite characters because you don't see anybody like that. And I've told you guys this over and over, I award extra points for I ain't never seen no shit like that. And this show, Andor, was replete with I ain't never seen no shit like that. And that's why I like the simple guy. Like this guy, I don't even know if this guy talks. Like I think he has a line in the finale, and that's about it. But the guy doesn't even talk. Every time we see him, he's just banging this anvil. I'm like, what a cool fucking idea, though, that this is. This same planet turns your dead body into a brick that goes into that goes into a wall, and that's supposed to honor you. The traditions, customs, stuff like that. If you work for the Empire, how are you paid? Well, the Empire apparently, as I've learned on Andor, does not have direct deposit. You're going to be walking home with a pocket full of hard currency, literally hard currency in your pocket. Most interesting to me, and this is the point where I really got into this show. What is prison like on one of these planets? You know, when the Empire decides that they want to incorporate stricter sentencing for crimes that could even tangentially be related to a rebellion, you end up finding out what prison is like. And I sat there for this 3-episode arc. Actually, I think the prison arc was 4 episodes. I sat there for this 4-episode arc fucking awestruck. Like, how does anybody come up with something this fucking creative, man? And it was just it was a joy to watch. And speaking of arcs, it's a 12-episode season, but they play like these miniature stories and these miniature arcs throughout the season. So you start off with like a 3-episode arc where it's kind of like, hey, we're going to introduce our characters. We're going to introduce what's going on. We're going to do a little bit of build up. And then we're going to have like this big action set piece in the 3rd episode. And then they do it again for episodes 4, 5, and 6. It's a heist, and it's like it's a totally different thing. It becomes like a heist show, kind of. And they like build up to this heist, and then they have the heist in episode 6, and it's fucking insane. Then episode 7, they start the prison arc, and it's like, I think 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all the prison arc, and then they close out the season with 11 and 12. So it's like impeccably structured, and you get like these different kind of like genres or these different kinds of stories or these different experiences and these 3-episode arcs it's kind of cool to have kind of like a little bite-sized story within a big, huge story. But it's not like episode to episode. It doesn't feel like an anthology where like you watch a new episode and it's like the previous one didn't happen. None of that's there. There's a through line through all 12 episodes, but you get these little 3-episode arcs, and I thought that was really cool too, and that was really enjoyable. And then that gives you the added hype of knowing, like I picked up on this, and by the time I'm heading into episode 6, I'm like, I know, okay, this must be the 3 episodes that are setting up this heist arc, and so I'm watching 4 and 5, and I'm like, well, if 6 holds to the same pattern as 1, 2, and 3, I can expect to have my socks knocked off in episode 6. And that's exactly what the fuck happened. And it's cool to know that you're about to sit down and you're about to have your socks knocked off by a television show, and the show comes through every time. So, just again, I just can't stop heaping praise on this show. It was a fucking joy. But yeah, stuff like these things just help make a more 3-dimensional world. It's just more interesting and more fun to explore. We also see the beginnings of the rebellion that we see in the movies. We see the treatment of the people that live on these planets and the extent that everyone has to go to and the sacrifices that have to be made in order for this rebellion to be successful. And again, that feeling of these are the regular people, the actual true heroes that made the events of the movies possible. And probably the thing that I found the most interesting, even though it's not something that really stands out in the show, but it's something that really stuck out to me, is how they even found time to humanize the villains. Most shows and films tell you as little about the villain as possible because there's like you lose that air of mystery if you learn too much about the villain, and that mystery feeds into like suspense or tension. Like I don't know what to expect of this character because I don't know anything about them, so they could do anything. And that works. But this worked too, like humanizing these villains. This show gave us villains we can understand and relate to, even if we don't agree with them. And the 2 villains that I'm referring to are Dedra and Cyril, who I mentioned when I was talking about who was in the cast. And they're just 2 people who want to be good at their jobs. Like, I'm sure, like, we can all relate to that, right? They just take their jobs. They take their jobs way more seriously than I think most of us do. Like, Dedra and Cyril are not quiet quitting. They're actually doing their job. But Dedra's whip smart. She's assessed the rebellion with 100% accuracy. Like, she's like, oh, this is what I think is going on. And we, the viewer who know what is going on, know that Dedra has been right every single time. But she's ignored because she's a woman, or she's not taken seriously because she's a woman. And then through like just sheer will and determination, like, not only does she figure out everything, but she gains respect. She ends up right at ground zero for the finale. I mean, that's where she was supposed to be at. That's where shit was going down, and she's the one who figured all of it out. So of course she's gonna be there. Cyril too is whip smart. He makes a mistake early on. Episode 3. And he's essentially benched for the rest of the season for the most part. But then Cyril has to deal with something a lot of us regular folks can relate to. Like, what's it like to be great at your job, but be undervalued and or underappreciated or overly punished or reprimanded for a small mistake? And great, he doesn't make a small mistake, but like, to have that passion to want to do your best and to not have someone see that. And we can all relate to Cyril having issues at work and then coming home to a mother who judges him. They have great spats back and forth. The dialogue between him and his mother is incredible every single time. But we can relate to what that's like to maybe come home to someone, or not even necessarily come home to a mother, but just to leave work and find your home life unfulfilling. And, when do you ever get to probe that deeply into the villain? Pause. Like, never, right? And, so you take first-class world building, first-class character development, storytelling, creativity, like you have on this show, and you end up with something really, really special that can breathe new life into the Star Wars universe, into Disney Plus, and maybe even other franchises that have run out of ideas. Because now we can look at it like, okay, we can... Star Wars Mandalorian is a Star Wars Western. This is Andor is kind of like a Star Wars heist movie. What if you say, okay, now I want to make a Star Wars cop show, like Law and Order SUV, but Star Wars. Like, you can do shit like that now, and I think Andor kind of opened the door for that. And if you want to do something like that in a different franchise, it's not Star Wars. There's a wealth of things where you can be like, oh, let's do I don't know, the fucking Shakespeare and Star Wars. Like, they can do whatever the fuck they want, right? And I think Andor proved that taking that little bit of a risk in trying to do something different can be richly rewarding, because I'm sure everyone who is involved in this show is probably scouring the internet, and has been for this 12-episode run, to see what people are thinking. And fuck the fucking ratings and all this kind of shit. Everybody loves this show because it is a masterwork, a masterclass in filmmaking. Just like I said about The Bear. No surprise, The Bear is still going to be my number one show of 2022. But this is something where, you don't expect to get something like this out of Star Wars. And this is why you need to bring in your Tony Gilroys to work on shows like this, so you can get something new, something fresh, something creative and exciting, and not just get the same old shit all the time. So again, I can't speak highly enough of this show. It's gonna be in my top 10. If for whatever reason you were like, I didn't like Bad Batch, I didn't like Mandalorian, I didn't like Boba Fett, I didn't like episode 7, 8, 9. I didn't like Solo. Like if you're somebody who felt like you were out on Star Wars and you were like Andor, like I didn't even like the Han Solo movie, and I love Han Solo. Why the fuck would I watch Andor? And I barely cared about Andor. Like, if you're that person, watch the show anyway. I promise you, it's fire. Like, if I could rank, well, I can, Star Wars properties. If like I'm talking like we're probably going the original 3 and then this. like this is up. Like, I enjoy this better than any television show. I enjoy this better than any of probably. Well, I enjoyed it better than probably all of the sequel trilogy and probably all the prequel trilogy as well. But we're talking enjoyment, it gets a little murky. Like, there's certain things that I enjoyed, but as far as quality, like how good is it? It's indisputably better than everything that's been on television, all the sequel trilogy, all the prequel trilogy. Like, there is no argument. Indisputably better in quality than all of those things. And that is not me being hyperbolic. I shy away from hyperbole. I'm telling you, it's fire. Watch it. And then join the Discord. I made a new channel for it's just like I think it's just called TV talk, like for shit that I don't cover, but you might join the Discord and you're like, well, I want to talk about Andor. That's your place. So join the Discord that I talked about at the top of the video. Find the TV talk channel. If you want to talk Andor, I'll be around to talk it, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.